Hi, I'm Chris from Airwindows, and I'm here to show you my new plugin, Slew. It's not actually the newest plugin in the world because it's the first one that I ever put out in 2007. However, this is new to VST and it's new to Windows, and I'm not aware of anybody else that's doing exactly this. Nobody picked up on this when I put it out. This is what Slew does. Get it? Slew is a measurement of how quickly the voltage of a sound can change as it's going through. Like if you put a oscilloscope up here, which I don't think I have one, but if you put an oscilloscope up here, you'd be seeing certain waveforms moving suddenly, and then certain waveforms like bass frequencies would go much more smoothly. At any point, if a waveform is moving from one voltage to another over time, that is a slew. Now, an incredibly low frequency waveform, that's very small slew, and a high frequency waveform that's suddenly jumping from one point to another, it's like a crackling of high frequencies, that is very high slew. And I can demonstrate this by throwing on this track called Back Hat. That's very high frequencies, and that's very low frequencies. Now, if I put on Back Hat and start bringing in Slew, you listen carefully. As it gets over to even the middle part, you'll start to hear a difference. This is a Slew clipper. That means it jumps right on the sound and breaks it up, but it's not simply a distortion because it's operating on Slew. In a way, it's a little bit like some kind of bit crusher, but it's not a bit crusher. It's darkening the sound and it's taking off the high frequency spikes that it hits by clipping them away. However, if you had it on a low frequency sound, you barely notice anything. You'll start to hear stuff going on here, and then if you keep pushing it, the clipping becomes apparent. It's the same thing as amplitude clipping because it's going to create an artifact, it's going to create a sound. But there can be useful things to that sound as well. For instance, I'm going to add just a reverb of some kind. I think I'll do one of mine because I like mine. I'll be putting them out for free too, never you mind. Let's see. Searching for, I could use pocket. No, I think nonlinear space. Now if I put this on, I don't want to make it too nonlinear. This is essentially one of those nonlinear type reverbs where you can do that crazy semi-gated type sound. That's why I made it. It also does an inverse nonlinear, which sustains more quiet sounds and steps on loud sounds. But that's not my concern right at the moment. What I'm going to do is demonstrate how you can use Slew to make your reverb sound much, much farther away and bigger. And that goes kind of like this. You can hear very plainly that it's a bright sound, but it sounds like it's farther away, and then if I keep pushing it, we're starting to get a really far away effect. This is one way you can use Slew, is to alter stuff like this. It's a clipper, but it makes it sound like you're overloading the room. like it's just blowing up the room. And I can keep going. And I pull that back a little bit. Put up all the bass. Now, this is actually a little bit too thundery, I think. Gonna pull back in there just a hair. Or indeed bring in some of the dry. But you'll notice that if I turn off Slew, very different. But this is a useful technique for doing stuff like this. In sound design terms, that's not going to be possible through direct equalizing. You can't just roll off the highs, because what Slew does is it whacks the highs in an amplitude kind of way. It's a clipper for the slew factor, meaning that you still can have some of it in there, but it's acting like it's breaking up the volume of it kind of acts like the air distorts. And there's useful ways to use that. I can bring it in also for soloing the synthesizers, and I'll show you what kinds of effects we can get out of that. It's a bassy sound, so we don't hear much, but see, now that's a distortion effect. But it's got some monster bass on it. In fact, I can combine it with the thumpy noise. And normally it's supposed to sound like this. But if I combine them and throw this slew on, I get that distortion effect happening. It's going to merge those two sounds together. And you can dial in your preferred flavor of the distortion effect. Like, you don't like that top end on it, do a little more. When I do that, the thump is kind of overloading it completely. Or I can pull it back and get just a sort of crunch on the front of it. I'll throw this kick in. And without it, you got this. Put it in, and you get a sort of old school samplery kind of effect that merges everything together and gives a particular kind of distortion to it that you're not going to get with just an ordinary distortion plugin. And I can add a dark hat. Since that's bright, I can pull it back a little bit maybe. Now that's an interesting tonality. And of course, since it's just a plugin, you could throw this on a submix. You could throw this on an aux of some kind, and then throw other stuff in there parallel to have your bright aspects of things as well. But then at the same time, you're taking one of your buses, one submix of your stuff, and you're taking this and turning it into this. I've probably talked about this enough. Slew is completely free. I do a Patreon. The first video that I did in this time period, the console one, I didn't know that I'd have the Patreon yet because I made that video before Kage went bust. However, now I know what I'm looking at. So This is not $50. It never was. It is free. And I'm running a Patreon. If you like me making more stuff like this, please support the Patreon. It's that simple. And again, it is free for audio unit and Mac VST and PC VST. And I hope you like it as much as I like it.